I've had a cold. I'm Anton Bachkarev, 3SideEye.org. Fast Red Team is the thing that I would like to talk about. I worked in Jet and Bison, and here I would like to shatter your imagination about the hidden penny tester. Initially, I wanted to come up with this booth. It's very difficult to install a booth here, so it's much easier to prepare a 15-minute long presentation here, and later please come up to me with questions if you like. It's more philosophical presentation than technical that I would like to deliver, but I hope you'll be interested. Why do we need this hidden approach? Why do we need a hidden approach for the white hat in a red team? Just to have no contradictions, so that we are not thrown away and we don't find other points of entry, but we can have different tasks to perform, like encryption solutions, etc. But this hidden aspect is not constant. Just a wrong move, a wrong alert, one mistake, and they block our accounts, and we are not allowed any permissions. So this time let's talk about the red team without any hidden aspect whatsoever. When we work without hidden aspect, we can just work short but effective for one night. Serious protection starts in the morning. That's when it kicks in, because the first line of SOC works not 27 by 4, 24 by 7, I mean. They cannot react very quickly because they don't have enough competence, they have limited access. So if it's not true and they have specialists that are ready to counteract attackers 24 by 7, it's very often an exception. Commercial services offer this fast reaction within hours, 24 by 7, but normally such solutions are very expensive and no one buys them. Protection tools may be using different modes like block and alert. Those who use the block mode is a very rare case to protect against very obvious attacks. Maybe we should put this in the alert mode so that the IT experts later will react, and it will give us some time. It will give us some time just for one night while everyone is asleep, or while everyone is asleep at work, like we all know, and their protection tools are screaming with alerts. We can absolutely hack this system before dawn. My report is a little bit of a cheat sheet. I will put it in a GitHub later. And we can just speak about it differently, but it's just a classification. And here are the stages. They are not going in this particular order. They just listed randomly depending on your access to the segment. They iterate before we reach the goal, like anywhere in a pen test in the red team. In actual fact, the most important stage here is, of course, preparation. Those guys who are playing standoff, I was a part of standoff in 2018. They know that automation is everything about it, and it brightly manifests in standoff. Previously, those who could exploit a typical vulnerability, patched it, and hide it, immediately triumphs, and that was the reason why we actually lost that standoff once. In practice, we're not going to patch anything, but speed here is important, so we automate all the inspections, all the checkups with our updates We can do it, but automate, automate, and automate again. And we need to have maximum number of logs. We need to log everything. I'm white, and I'll have to write a report. If I lose a part of kill chain because of logs, it will complicate my explanation to the customer, of course. And when automation works in a wrong way after the project, we can check the logs and see what had gone wrong, because sometimes we may have glitches in logs and sometimes they misperform. And of course, we prepare the brute force farm. That's the thinnest and narrowest point. If we don't have a powerful brute force farm, we'll be losing a lot of time there and will be a recipe for disaster. And of course, we need to have a lot of caffeine in our blood, need to rest properly, prepare, be physically fit, have automation, logs on. We have a brute force farm, and still we have some time just to analyze what's in broadcasts and gather information. But we do not actively act from that host because we need to hide. If there is a very simple scan, we will be detected and people will not leave their workplaces and they will catch us. Active intelligence. In a pen test, everyone scans whatever they want to scan, and they run these scans for hours and days. It's not our story. We will be losing some services during the course of our scan. It doesn't matter. It's just a matter of finding the more that we would like to work with. So maybe we'll not have a 100% scan coverage. We'll just be scanning all the major ports, everything that the customer has in the infrastructure, and we will be scanning the most widespread ports, and we'll be seeing the speed of network. We would put it in the very aggressive scan mode. We'll just need to very quickly gather initial information, gather intel, and start work. RCE. The most important thing is RCE services like Bluekeeper, Eternal Blue, Proxy Shell, etc. So we use them, scan the entire network. Some of you have custom scanners, so if you scan it through Eternal Blue, but in Amazon there is a Bison solution. I'm not trying to promote it, but it's been there for a while, and it just uses Ruby, and it scans real fast, scans fast with that solution. You can use such scanners, and you need to be familiar with those that scan fast. Potential RCE vulnerable services like Redis, 1C, DBMS, etc. 1C actually can run the code through external shells, but I'll speak about it later. What we will be addressing during the course of scan, we may be encountering older hosts, the older versions of OS. Immediately we detect it, especially if you have experience. Some shadow IT will be our entry ports, entry points, most likely. We will not be scanning 65,000 ports. We will not be scanning UDP ports. We will not be scanning any Nessus, Rapid 7 Expose, MaxPart. These solutions are not going to be used. They are very expensive. And of course, to analyze this, too much time will take. Will take too much time. We'll be spending. We will be not doing that, and inside, if you just dig up the web services, it's going to be one of the best ways to lose your time, because if you started digging the web, you must have lost something much more easy to catch. So we ignore web vulnerabilities, we ignore printers, we ignore IP cameras, UPSs. They will not get us let through because we have a different task to perform. We only have one night to hack. As we develop this attack, as we get more advanced, we definitely try NTLM, LMNR spoofing. This thing still works. We work at night. And at night, the number of caches is not going to be great because there are no active users online. Probably there will be some admins monitoring or some network tools with accounts. So it's going to let us through and let us propagate through our network. We try to use exploits to all of the hosts. If, for example, it says that this host is not vulnerable to the scanner, don't believe it. Try to exploit anything. Anything you can be exploited. I don't even remember how many times I've seen it, but it was very frequent when when the scanner says it's not vulnerable, it's resistant, but it passes. It passes by. It gets through. Through automation, everything works. So we also try to check the default 1C settings and the default passwords in the DBMS. It's a great thing, default passwords, and it allows us to understand how to check it quickly, and it allows us to propagate through network really quickly. What we should not do, or do the least, RP spoofing. Very often your port will be blocked if you use that, and then it's all done for you. It's all finished. We're not going to get through shared folders. You'll be losing too much time in the shared folders. There may be some configuration files, but most unlikely. You can run a search through it, but that's the most. And please check default passwords to web services. And if there is automated solution, use it. Don't try to brute force SSH. SNMP is not the solution here either, and using other spoofing methods. When we got the first accounts, it allows us to investigate even more. We get Bloodhound, we understand what we have in Active Directory, we start using it. Everything that we had scanned previously can be ignored, and we take a local dump to work with it. In the group policy, please check if there is the account of the local administrator in GPO. Even in the 21st century, they still have it. And what's this tool from Microsoft called that saves local admin accounts? It's called labs, right? Everyone needs to have labs, but still not all of the people have it. Try pass the hash, overpass the hash, psexec, etc., because sometimes it allows us to move on even if we did not brute force them completely. So we need to check all the available hosts, see everything there, try to use all of the hosts available for our account, use each and every account to the most. Don't do anything manually. Like I said, don't try to dig through shared folders and email, especially if they are not emails from an admin. You will not find anything interesting there anyway. You're not working with the email servers, Active Directory. There is a very little attention you are paying to some accountants. Your task is just to come up to the domain admin, tech support, admin, etc., etc., internet security accounts. In the Windows environment, in the Windows hosts, we try to increase our access rights, and there is a bunch of tools to do that. We can start from MPI and we can end with the very interesting tools like im packets. So start with minicats and end with im packet. And please address WinPs. So if you use these tools, you'll be granted privileged access. how do we bypass antiviral solutions? We're not trying to get into heuristics, not really. We try to bypass it by standard ways, by analyzing the exceptions. There is a solution that Microsoft somehow launched a cheat sheet of accepting antiviruses, what would be best to include so that everything works in the domain. In my experience, almost all of the customers take this cheat sheet, upload it to the antivirus software and live with it. But even half of the software from Microsoft is not there, but there are some exceptions granted to the folders, and by these exceptions you can run anything you can. So extra exceptions is the best thing to bypass the antivirus solution. Very often it works. And of course there is a point of going through hardcore password protected files. But Metasploit and homegrown solutions are suitable for that. But don't do it manually. Don't do it manually. Use automatics here. Of course, we can bypass signatures, but we'll get stuck in the heuristics phase. So try anything you can try. It doesn't really matter. We don't care if we get caught. So we try and try and try. If this antivirus does not allow us to check the paths, if standard Microsoft paths have no exceptions for you, try to use a non-standard software solution and put it in that folder and try to launch it and execute it. And very often it gives very funny results, and it's going to be much easier than bypassing the heuristics. In Linux, we can use a similar approach. We can use linps, from which you can set the priorities, and they will be colored approximately. Linux exploit suggester is one of the options, and you can find something in the cron tab, check what sudo can launch, and find some passwords in history by running a scan. In Linux, it's most frequently launching the exploits. That's what helps there. All the other things are optional. You just check the exploits. If this exploit doesn't work, don't believe it. Give it a try. And again, I repeat, don't do anything manually. Save your time. And when we are approaching the finish line, and we get close to the privileged user's status, we check it with Bloodhound, and Bloodhound will prompt you what to do. And we find passwords from privileged accounts, like, for example, backup copy software passwords, and you'll be able even to find the password to shut down the antivirus. It will help you find it, and don't waste your time on accountants' accounts, pardon my pun. So we get the rights, we get the token, we get the session of the system admin, and this is how it works. This is a great recommendation. We do not go to complicated hosts, so we ignore them, and we don't need to break each and every solution. We are not going to show how cool we are just cracking this vulnerability, wasting 8 hours on that. That's not the point. The result is important for us. We try anything that's automated. If there's nothing automated, we try it ourselves. And we do not interfere with spoofing attacks there. And quick checks versus long checks. We move forward, set the priorities right, we delegate, we work in a team, we spread it by hosts, we do not check and verify each other, we trust our colleagues. Very quickly and very often update Bloodhound database. Very quickly we can get access to the server which we control and steal a session from the domain admin. And all these stop list checks are useful sometimes, but sometimes they do not give you a high priority quickly. So what would be the trick of this speed brute force run? Maybe we just use it as a contingency. We run as fast as we can and try to crack the nut before we get kicked out. And such fast activities are not familiar to those who try to protect the system. My colleagues shared this idea with me. They almost 40 minutes behind reacting to our moves. If we run too quickly, they will not kick us away. And it actually impresses the customer enormously when they wake up in the morning and see, wow, what's happened? And what about the customer? Well, the customer, of course, will evaluate the speed of recovery, and they know which tools it's best to set to block status, not alert. And if it works, the result will be like you see in the screen, and it will puzzle the customer enormously. Thank you, I'm done.